Joining us now for World Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya. Good morning, Adefemi.
Good morning, Dr. Rubin. Good morning, Ayo. And a huge good morning to you. Thank you, Ayo. And good morning to you, Vimbai, all the way in Abuja. How's everybody doing today?
Ooh, it's been an eventful morning.
Hasn't it?
Yes.
And it's only just started.
Only just started.
Exactly. Well, a very good morning to you too, viewers. Let me tell you what's happening around the world. Now, the party is over before it even began in Tanzania. That's as the country has cancelled its Independence Day celebrations, which were scheduled for the 9th of December, announcing that instead, those budgeted funds will instead be used to repair the infrastructure damaged during the violent unrest that took place after the disputed 29th of October presidential elections. Now, Prime Minister Mwigulu Nchemba said that the move responds to calls for protest on the same day. He's been urging Tanzanians to avoid violence and to pursue dialogue. Now, that election at the end of last month, which saw President Samia Suluhu Hassan win 98% of the vote, has been marred by allegations of rigging, exclusion of key opposition figures, and a brutal security crackdown that, according to rights groups and the opposition, has left many people dead and many more arrested on treason charges. Well, coming away from that now, and far-right Australian Senator Pauline Hanson has been suspended for 7 sitting days. That's after she wore a burqa in Parliament, as she called for a ban on wearing the Muslim garment. Now, the Queensland Senator of the anti-immigration One Nation Party was seeking to introduce a bill that would outlaw full-face coverings in public, a policy that she has been campaigning for a long time. Now, the stunt triggered a censure motion that passed 55-5, and it's actually the second time the senator has worn the garment which covers the face and the body. Its parliament said that her actions were in protest at the Senate rejecting her bill, calling for the ban of that garment in public. Now, that being said, senators were enraged by the stunt. Let's take a listen to what 2 senators had to say.
President, a dress code might be a choice of the senators, but racism should not be the choice of the Senate. This is a racist senator displaying blatant racism and Islamophobia, President, and someone should pull her up on that.
Senator Faruqi.
And it is you in the chair. You should be pulling her up on that.
If this is about the dress code, she is disrespecting a faith. She is disrespecting the Muslims out there, Muslim Australians. It's absolutely unconstitutional. This needs to be dealt with immediately before we proceed.
So very emotional reactions there in the Australian Senate. Let's move on to another story now. US President Donald Trump says that he will only meet with the Russian president and the Ukrainian president if a peace deal is reached. Now, Trump himself says that a deal is very close to being reached. That's as Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, says his country is ready to push forward with the framework of the US-Ukraine peace deal, which has been condensed from 28 points down to 19 key issues. Russia, for its part, hasn't been as vocal, but Foreign Minister for Russia, Sergei Lavrov, says that channels of communication with the United States remain open. Donald Trump was addressing journalists on his way back to Florida earlier. Let's take a listen to what Donald Trump had to say.
Reuters would halt. We started with Russia. We're having some talks with Russia. Ukraine is doing well. I think they're pretty happy about it. They'd like to see it end. And we won't know for a little while, but we're making progress.
You said, what are the next things?
We settled 8 wars, and I thought this would be one of the easier ones because of my relationship with President Putin. But this is probably one of the more difficult ones. There's a lot of hatred.
What's the next step?
They're going to keep talking. They're talking to Russia now. Steve Witkoff is going over, maybe with Jared. I'm not sure about Jared going, but he's involved in the process, smart guy, and they're going to be meeting with President Putin, I believe, next week in Moscow.
Alrighty, well, we heard what Donald Trump just had to say there. And before we come over to our wonderful colleagues for their thoughts on the World Brief, let's first take a look at newspaper headlines. As ever, we begin with the front page of This Day. And just at the top of This Day, we can see that Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has presented a 4.23 trillion naira 2026 budget, tagged the Budget of Shared Prosperity. Now, the proposal projects 3.99 trillion naira revenue and a 243 billion naira deficit. Now, Economic Affairs gets the highest allocation in this budget at 1.37 trillion naira. That's as the budget focuses on people, infrastructure and growth. But as we know, this day's lead story is, of course, that of all 24 Kebbi schoolgirls being freed. President Tinubu has ordered a 24-hour aerial and ground surveillance operation in Kebbi, Kwara and Niger states. Now, their release, along with the 38 Eruku worshippers, was achieved through non-violent military and DSS efforts. Well, moving on to The Guardian this morning. The Guardian newspaper does report that lawmakers have been clashing over how best to tackle the rising insecurity. This is, of course, following fresh kidnappings in Kwara and in Kano State. So that is their lead story. Moving on to the Daily Independent, though. The Daily Independent takes a look at what the Christian communities are saying. So, for example, we do know that the Catholic bishops have urged the federal government to probe the delayed or withheld security responses in attacked communities. They're warning that it does suggest the possibility of collusion or intentional inaction. All of this while raising concern over Sharia court overreach and church destructions in Kwara, Kebbi, and in Kano states. Now, the New Telegraph, for its part, has the federal government banning open grazing over rising insecurity across Nigeria in order to stop clashes between herders and farmers. Now, the reforms aim to make livestock Nigeria's second largest source of revenue, with potential earnings of $74 billion in just 5 years. Well, let's take a look at The Punch this morning. Now, The Punch does lead and reports that the INEC chairman, Professor Joash Amupitan, has pledged an uncompromising fight against election rigging and vote buying. It's just at the bottom of the page there. And he's talking about doing this before the coming of these elections come 2027, and indeed elections before that. The Vanguard, however, reports that the Dangote Group and Honeywell, we're just seeing it up here, the Dangote Group and Honeywell are partnering to expand its refinery capacity to 1.4 million barrels per day. This collaboration aims to boost domestic fuel production, reduce imports, and strengthen the country's energy sector, all while creating even more jobs. Now, to UK papers this morning, let's take a look at the Metro. Today is budget day in the UK. Skinter is coming, a play on winter is coming, of course, says the Metro. It claims that millions will pay more as the cost of booze, alcohol, sugar, nights away, and even your morning latte is going all the way up. Staying with UK papers, the Daily Express this morning has the Justice Secretary in the United Kingdom, that is, of course, David Lammy. He has warned that he plans to abolish jury trials, and he says that plan to abolish jury trials, he says, will destroy the justice system. It will fail victims and increase the chance of wrongful convictions. This is according to the Daily Express. So it's a very controversial topic right there, whether or not trials will have juries or just face just one sitting judge. So those are your newspapers from Nigeria, the United Kingdom. And of course, we've got our World Brief. Love to hear your thoughts.
All right. Okay. Shall we start with Mbai?
Yes, please. Mbai, go ahead. Let's take a listen to what you've got to say.
Okay, sure. All right. I will summarize as quickly as I can. You began in Tanzania, which gives us an insight into how Samia Suluhu Hassan, who has now become known by the Gen Z as Idi Amin Mama, is what they have started calling her, especially after the ban on social media, and they started reaching out to their Kenyan counterparts to tell their story. Now, while she's playing the benevolent dictator at home by saving money that would have been used on an Independence Day parade and wanting to use that for reparations, there's also a case that has been instituted against her at the ICC, where they are documenting the day after the election, October 29. They're calling it the October Massacre, and she will have to answer for crimes against humanity. It's being led by the Madrid Bar Association, and according to some of the documents I've cited, it seems there are hundreds hundreds of documented cases of human rights atrocities that were committed during the election period. So, all eyes on that. Her issue was also tabled at the U.S. Congress. We see the U.S. Congress is becoming increasingly busy with African affairs. A couple of weeks ago, Donald Trump also said that he's now taking a particular interest in Sudan as well. This was after he received the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. So this renewed global interest in African affairs certainly shows the state of the world, where we see that as countries become poorer and grapple with cost of living, it's almost like we're having another scramble for Africa. I'll quickly go to our local news, where I think it's important to applaud the National Assembly, the House of Reps, for doing that special session on security. We now wait for the Senate to also respond with their own. In attendance, they had representatives from the United States. They also had the Speaker of the House from St. Kitts. So, good to also see that they're inviting the international community into this discourse. Some people might say, well, St. Kitts, how relevant are they to this? But it's all part of the optics of diplomatic engagement and the House doing their duties. What struck me about that is, I believe it was the Speaker who said, negotiating with criminals victimizes them. I paraphrase. Because yesterday a number of motions were tabled, which is that beyond just criminalizing the payment of ransom, they're also trying to push for the criminalization of negotiating with bandits. And this is quite poetic, if I may say, because this is coming within the same 24-hour time frame that we are all confused as to how several captives are being freed, in a so-called non-kinetic way, but we're not seeing any recourse to the bandits. Furthermore, I understand the forests are being cordoned off and so forth. But the question is, in October, the president said that they were unveiling the forest guards for deployment. We thought the forest guards by now would have been recruited and deployed within those forests. So why are we now doing this fire brigade approach of cordoning off areas, in response, reactive? Okay, I hear your voice. My time is up. So thank you for that.
All right, thank you. I'll make very quickly to the point with regards to some of the issues raised this morning. Starting home in Nigeria, the big headline, of course, we continue to ask very pertinent questions around the non-kinetic measure applied to rescue the students, rescue the church goers in Kwara State as well. The reason is that we do not want to create a room for conspiracy theories around people saying that even the government might be in collusion with the bandits, because how come they know how to get these abductees out without any form of arresting the perpetrators? Again, going back to the conversation around the fact that when we don't arrest these criminals, then it means that they can attack or lay siege at any point in time again. And so those are questions that we must continue to ask until we get a solid response to this. Why are there no arrests? This is the big question this morning. Then going beyond that, let's go to Australia, where Senator Pauline Hanson again has made headlines. This is not the first time she has, in protest and pursuing or promoting the bill to ban niqabs, wear one herself in Parliament. Yes, and they're saying that, it's discriminatory. But this conversation around banning niqabs in Australia has been ongoing for a while, with some people bringing the argument from a place of choice, that based on their faith, Muslim women have a right to choose how they want to dress, and it's constitutionally guaranteed in Section 116 of the Australian Constitution for religious freedom. However, others argue that in the interest of security, we need to, faces need to be unveiled. Now, what some parts in Australia, like New South Wales, that has quite a large population of Muslims. By the way, Muslims make 3.2% of the population in Australia, and aside from Christians and the denominations of Christians in Australia, is the second largest religion in Australia. What they are arguing is that in government spaces like Parliament, Muslims can be asked to raise up or unveil their faces in the interest of security while still protecting their right to wear a niqab. We'll see to how, to what extent this conversation would go and whether or not it will be viewed as being racist for this call to be made. It's interesting to know that Australia is not the only country calling for niqab ban. There are other countries around the world, including China, Denmark, Switzerland, France, Gabon, who have banned the wearing of niqab in the interest of security.
Okay. Well, first, let me start with Tanzania. Samia Suluhu Hassan I keep arguing, is disappointing us since she took over in 2023 after the death of President Magufuli. And the expectation was that, she will introduce a lot of reforms. Now, in the elections that took place last month in October, she banned Tundu Lissu for treason charges and banned another prominent candidate in that election, Mkanga or whatever, on technical grounds. And then she won 98% in an election that has been dismissed by the opposition as a mockery of democracy. Now the opposition is calling the people out to protest on December 9. And now they say, there will be no Independence Day celebration. So President Samia Suluhu Hassan is afraid of our own people. The question that is raised, therefore, is about the legitimacy of the election that was held in that country, and also about our own popularity by the people of Tanzania. However, the government is saying there is a commission of inquiry and calling on people to embrace a dialogue. But what we see in Tanzania is a problem, a derogation of democratic principles. There are other issues. In Australia, Senator Pauline Hanson may well have to be asked to please explain, which is a popular phrase that is associated with her. She's anti-immigration, she's against same-sex, she's far-right, she's, founder of the One Nation group. In 2017, she wore the burqa. Yeah. This time around, she's protesting that because a bill to ban burqa was not allowed, then that was why she's wearing it. This is the first time since 1901, fifth time since 1901, that somebody will be placed on a ban in the Senate of Australia for 7 days. And the first time since 1979. She's a very controversial figure, but our colleagues think that our position this time is racist and that it is unacceptable. But, we hope that she will come back and please explain. Finally, Russia and Ukraine. Trump says his initial 28-point plan was not a plan, it was a concept. So now he's supporting this latest development brokered on Sunday. And the whole idea, of course, is that Ukraine supports it, but Russia is opposed to it. Two issues that are controversial. One, the security guarantees discussed in that proposed plan, and two, the decision of the Ukrainians to say their constitution, Articles 2, 5, and 73, do not allow Ukraine government to cede territory. And Russia says it wants to hold on to eastern Donbass. It's already holding Crimea, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhia. These are territories that Russia wants to hold on to. But we'll see what happens, because the discussion is continuing beyond what happened in Geneva on Sunday. Thank you very much, right. Adefemi.
Well, thank you so much, Adefemi.
welcome.
I would like to non-kinetically thank you so much for your time with us this morning. Dr. Bati, this is a word that will be going on in Nigeria today because it's a new approach to insecurity.